Welcome once again to another episode. We are the Will Crew. We have a really good topic that we're going to talk about today. So, our family loves sports, but we especially love us some football. And as we do on all our episodes, we talk about things that we did when we were kids, and we encourage you guys to try some of these things, even though you have to do it with safety and precaution, which we're going to talk about. So, on this particular episode, we're going to talk about street football. Now, we also have a little subtitle to street football. So, out in the great New Roads, Louisiana, what we used to call it was touching the road and bussing in the ditch. So, we're going to have our brother Joe start off to talk about street football. So, Joe, go ahead and tell us about street football.
Okay, street football. We used to like my brother said, touching in the road and tackling in the ditch. So what happens when we play football in the road, we'll just touch each other. So if you go in the ditch, then you'll have to tackle. Now a few times we had to fight. It wasn't that much traffic, but a few times cars might be coming down the street, so we had to pull on the side so they can pass. So we'll stop play, then we'll resume play right after they finish. And that basically was it. Just mostly just anytime you hit the ditch, the ground, you tackle, and in the street, you do touch.
Yeah, I love how you described that, Joe. And man, we remember that vividly. So, Greg, what could you tell us about street football?
We used to play street football because we didn't really have anything to play in. So he said tackling the ditch, but we call it bussing in the ditch. So if you want to get tackled or hit or whatever, you run in the ditch.
That's right.
You want to get tackled, stay in the road and somebody touches you down. And then we also used to call another way we used to play was called New Orleans style. You have to get touched and you throw the ball up. And so if somebody touches you out the ball out your hands, you're not down. And then you get.
You know what was funny about New Orleans style, Greg? As you said, it is that I remember times when we were playing with thought that wasn't allowed, and you see somebody throw the ball up to themselves, and then the other player on the opposing team saying, "What you doing?" And then that's when the guys say, "New Orleans style," and then we keep going on with it. Now, I don't know if you watch us play street football, whatever. Do you have any recollection about kids playing street football?
Oh yeah, I just remember y'all definitely playing on the street right in front of our house. Of one of a street that went on along the side of our house. This one particular area that the street dead ends. So like my brother Joe said, every now and then you would get a car that passed by. And I remember y'all having to get out the street, stop the game, and let the car pass. And then once the car passed, then you go back to playing. Yep, I definitely remember watching y'all play.
And one thing you got to remember, kids, is that because since the road is so narrow, you're not going to have an 11-man or woman team. So you're going to only have about 3 or 4 players per team. So, you could have, sometimes we did it where you didn't have a center, you just have the quarterback hike the ball. And but I love how Joe and Greg were even describing it earlier, because what it is, so imagine, for those of you who know a lot about football, imagine it's 4th down and you're close to your own side of the end zone. So you're far away from getting the touchdown. So now you're running the ball in the street and somebody's about to touch you. Now remember, if they touch you, the other team get the ball next because it's 4th down. So they're closer to the end zone to score. So since you don't want that makes you run in the ditch to where they gotta tackle you. And you're hoping that you run through even if you get tackled, at least you're gonna pick up a few more yards, because you wouldn't have picked up those yards if you were in the road being touched. See, that's the thing. Now here's the interesting thing about it, and this is where you guys really got to be careful. So we grew up in Louisiana, as we mentioned on the show. So when you're playing street football, how it is in Louisiana, we have the road, and then to the left of the road we have a ditch, and also to the right of the road there's another ditch. So there's So the road is surrounded by 2 different ditches, so you can run on either side. The one thing you have to be careful though, however, and this is what we used to experience a lot. Sometimes because we were kids and we just always did this, it used to rain a lot back at home. So sometimes the ditches were flooded and we still ran in that ditch even though water was in it. And I still remember this, and I was telling you guys this off camera, where one guy ran in the ditch with water in it and he got tackled. And all I remember, because I think y'all were playing football that day, Greg and Joe, y'all were a little bit older than me. And I just remember a guy coming into our house crying, and all I saw was a lot of blood. And they told me he got tackled in the ditch and there was bottle glass in that water. And he didn't know. Nobody knew. So you do have to be careful with that when you're tackling in the ditch, because so it might not be safe to do it as we did, to play where you got water on each side. You know, just make sure. And if you are tackling, you know, just make sure that you are careful with it. You know, if you're going to do it, you know, we don't want to encourage anybody to break any legs or necks or nothing like that, break any type of bones. But is a really good concept if you think about it. You're actually playing football where you do touch, where there's one hand touch or two hand touch. But then if you know you want to get more yards, you take your butt in that ditch. Go to the left or go to the right, left ditch or the right ditch, and you run through it. And it was a lot of fun doing that. So,
and yeah, one more point about tackling the ditch. We played in different spots, like my sister said, in front of our house. When we used to play around the corner, and they had a guy, like you still had the road, had 2 ditches, like you say, on each side, and then one side had a fence. So the guy, you know, we still tackle around that fence, and sometimes might have got a few little cuts and bruises from that fence because you know, the ditch was right by the fence. So like you say, you got to be careful with fences, even though you know it was ever in the ditch. So I remember a few times we tackled around a fence too by that ditch.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that with the fence. And you know, it was cool whenever you're playing in the street, you know, sometimes, you know, you got to make your markings or your landmarks of where the touchdown is going to be. So sometimes we would say, okay, your touchdown is right by where that telephone pole is. So, you know, growing up in the country, we had telephone poles everywhere. Or sometimes it'd be like, what by Johnny Mac's car, that's where y'all touchdown is. So there'd be a car parked on the side of the road. So, and you know, I think you were saying this earlier, how you got to go to the side of a car, or you see a car coming, so you got to temporarily stop. So things always got in the way. You remember stuff like that on Greg? I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you had to pay around things.
Sometimes you have to replay the play because a car come and mess the play up.
That's right. That's right.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sometimes you had a touchdown, you had to call it back, and sometimes you don't get the touchdown next time.
That's right. That's so true. That's so true. And so remember, guys, you're not going to tackle anybody in the road. It's only the touch. Now, if you guys want to introduce flags, you know, nowadays people play a lot of flag football. Maybe you want to decide to put flags in your pocket. You know, we being from the country, we wouldn't have bought any flags. We would have bought socks. We'd have had some old socks, stole them out of our drawer. Our mama would have gotten mad, but she would have washed it anyway. So we put the socks in our back pocket and then, you know, do it from there. And but like I say, so if you have a ditch on each side, you know, it might be something you might want to consider. But like I said, make sure that you play with precaution, because again, we don't want anybody to get injured. We're not encouraging any injuries at all or anything, but it was just something really fun to do. We talked earlier off camera where we had one of our friends named Batmite, that we used to play so much street football that we just had a lot of fun with it. And Batmite used to do his imitation of Howard Cosell saying, "This is street football at its best." So, so that's going to do it for this episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back with another episode. Stay tuned.